There's a quiet numbness spreading among young men. We're overstimulated, without purpose, and constantly told that happiness is the goal, while secretly feeling like that's not enough. Today's guest believes that the problem isn't that men are broken, it's that we've been living like puppets, pulled by comfort, pleasure, and fear, instead of choosing action. Trey Tucker, known online as Rugged Counseling, is a licensed therapist with millions of followers online who works with men who look successful on the outside, but who feel lost, numb, quietly desperate on the inside. His new book, Tough Enough, isn't about being harder. It's about being honest, purpose-driven, and strong enough to stop running from your own life. And before we start, I want to say clearly, I am the target demographic for this book. What's so cool about this conversation is that I get to speak for all the young men out there who this book is meant to serve, and we get to figure out things together. If you're a young man who feels distracted, restless, anxious, or like you're meant for something more but don't know how to access it, this conversation is for you. Trey Tucker, welcome back to the Grateful Podcast.
Jack, I'm fired up, brother. I'm fired up. Thank you for that kind intro. I think you should be the one giving out the advice because you're the one that's got the wisdom beyond their years. I should have told you this before, but at some point I'm going to need you to run for president, and we need to bring down the minimum age requirement to have you run at an earlier age. So just start going ahead and fundraising right now for that whole campaign.
Get me a super PAC going, and then we can talk about it. Dude. I'm super excited about the direction that this conversation can head in and your book, because as we've talked about on our previous episode, but didn't get to really hone in too deeply on, there is a masculinity crisis, no matter how you want to look at it. Data shows that a majority of young men describe their mental health as poor or fair, and men are much more likely to die by suicide than women, even though they're less likely to get help. From a therapist's perspective, I'm curious, what is the internal barrier that you think keeps men from seeking help, facing their struggles, and asking for support?
Ooh, man. Starting off with a nice, easy question, huh?
Always. I love to give you softballs.
I love being stumped because I'm almost stumped right now, but I think I have a guess at an answer here. There was a study done by the University of Rochester, and they took around 200 people, and they studied those 200 people they were really high achievers. So they were always, or at least consistently, achieving extrinsic goals. Extrinsic meaning wealth, achievements, fame, whatever that category of extrinsic goal would fall under. And so all of them actually achieved those goals, but all of them as well reported lower mental health well-being after achieving those goals, which it shocked me when I read that too, because I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're fed this line, if you just make a certain amount, or if you just be locked in enough and achieve enough and get at least a little bit of fame or notoriety, then you'll feel good, right? Well, apparently not. And then I realized oh yeah, in the minuscule versions I've had of that, I found much more pleasure, quote unquote, and I hate using that word very often, but in this case I will, but I found much more pleasure and well-being in the actual advancing toward the goal rather than the achievement of that goal. And I realized once I got the goal, it didn't really do for me what I thought it was going to do. And in times in the past, I thought, well, getting this goal is going to fix something in me, like an insecurity, some past failure or some past rejection. And it didn't fix me either. So I think it's a roundabout way of saying the research is actually showing that we've been fed some lies about what's actually going to satisfy us. And we think that just if I can get this and accomplish that, and if I can be hard enough or even tough enough to use the book phrase, at least by the definition of external achievements and validation, it's just an empty promise, and it's really a lie that it's going to really do anything for us. It'll give us a little kind of high for a few days or even a few weeks, but then the internal stuff is still there because that external stuff can't reach it.
So, hearing that, I'm curious about both the problem and the solution. For one, I don't think that the majority of young men have goals, right? Or at least not clear written ones, right? And two, when we do set goals, I'm not sure that they're correct. Bob Proctor talks about you have different types of goals. You have B goals, he calls them, which are the things that we think we can do, the things we think we can achieve. Most people choose a career based on what they think they could achieve, and they give up because they realize that maybe they can't achieve it as easily as they thought, right? So someone that says, I'm really good at communicating, I'm going to do a career in sales, and then they don't find the success they thought they would find in sales, they'll give up. But what people need to do is set a goal that they truly want, what he calls a C goal, a goal that truly enlivens them. And then if you truly want something so bad and make that your mission, then you won't give up, right? Because that's your mission. So I'm curious from your perspective, where you think we can use this data to help us curate a better approach toward achieving goals and maximizing fulfillment.
Yeah. Wow, you explained that really well. You need to do your own version of study, that course. And I would say this, and how do I say it in a fairly succinct way? A lot of social media is great for short-term motivation, but it's pushing us in the direction of goals that are mainly self-focused. And those goals, they seem awesome at first, and they seem like, yeah, that guy's chasing after it, so I need to too, and the whole, the idea of hustle culture and everything that comes with it. But when you look at them and you kind of label them, they all have a main benefit of me. And if we could flip that, because we've seen this enough. This is why a lot of the folks in your generation, especially the men in your generation, they're starting to turn toward things of a spiritual nature, because they've seen what all of the hustle culture gets them, and what all of the material possession chasing gets them, and it just keeps them more empty. And so if we can flip it to, let me chase something hard, but let me make sure it actually benefits somebody else besides just me. And that's where I think a lot of people are missing it,
Mm,
is they're missing the meaning aspect. Like, you can chase a goal that's about yourself, and that can be your purpose for a while, but there's no real meaning in that, because you didn't make any kind of an impact on anybody else. And making that impact is really what one of the biggest things that satisfies us. So I think that's, if we could stop buying the lies of social media, that's like it's all about how much you can get and how hard you can get it, then we could at least start to taste what we're really made for.
I think that is so powerful. And it makes me question a lot of what most people are doing and what we're being told, the ways we can serve, if that makes sense. Like both me and you, we serve people through online, and we don't serve just our immediate circles, right? We're serving people that we've never met physically. We've never shook their hand. But for a lot of people, it shouldn't be the goal, I don't think, to try to serve people online. So how do you think that people can implement that into their daily lives without becoming an influencer like so many people want to be?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because that is, it's almost like, because that's how we spend our time, or at least our downtime. We see all these people on a screen. We feel like that's the only way we can make an impact too. But if we think about our own lives and the people that have impacted us the most, none of them happened on a screen. And so I think about, like, what have been the interactions that have made the most impact on me? It's been super simple things that the other person probably had no idea that they were making that kind of impact on me. So something as simple as somebody remembering my name, I mean, that
Yeah.
goes a long way. I mean, yeah, you see it too. It's like, that's someone's name is music to their own ears. So if we can actually be intentional enough about just saying it, like, not just like, "Hey, how you doing?" but like, "Hey, Jack, how are you?" It's just something that more personal about it. Reaching out, just shooting somebody a text. It can be that simple. It's like, "Hey, you were on my mind. I just wanted to say, hey, say what's up." That's one habit I've tried to stay in, is like, if somebody comes up in my mind, then at least if it happens twice, then I'm pretty dang sure that's something from God telling me to reach out to him. But even if it just happens once, I try to just fire off something like, "Hey man, what's up? Just want to say hey." Like, nothing deep. You don't have to send them some paragraph. Um, but on a deeper level, there was a guy, and this, I had no idea I was making this impact. I certainly wasn't trying to make this impact, but every day in the school hallway, I would walk by this dude, because he and I would both get to school early in the mornings, and I would say, "Hey," and his name isn't Seth, but I'm calling him Seth. So, like, "Hey, what's up, Seth?" And that was it. Like, literally no other conversation than that. But it was almost every day. And 2 years later, he writes this letter saying, "Hey, I just want you to know that I was thinking about ending my own life by my own hand, And you were one of the main reasons I didn't, because you took the time to say my name and to say hello to me as you walked by, and it made me feel like I mattered. I Yeah, like, all I was doing was just acknowledging his presence. I wasn't trying to, like, make some huge impact. So, long story short, I think we can just make a much bigger impact than we think just by little touches here and there.
Yeah, I have chills thinking about that. And the amount of times that we feel some fear inside of us to just humanize other people, to just have some interaction. And I mean, even when you reach out, sometimes people are so cold. Like it was before Christmas. I just went into a bookstore. I was getting a meditation book for my dad, which was really cool. And on the way out, I saw this guy, and I forget what he had something on. I really liked what his hoodie said, or something about that. And I just said that to him, and he had two kids, and he just looked at me like confused, like why are you talking to me? And it's almost this alienation with each other. And one of the things I've become really passionate about recently, after talking to David Lorimer for the second time on my show, who's the guy who every day posts, "Today I'm grateful for," and he's always in a field in a suit. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's awesome. And he talks about always just having impact on the people around you and really focusing on that, because we've gotten so far away from it. And we've gotten so far away from it that sometimes we even feel uncomfortable receiving that.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, it's you're right. There's been a barrier that's been placed in front of us in terms of face-to-face interactions where, like, that guy you complimented his sweatshirt, and he's thought you were, like, speaking some sort of foreign language at him or something. It's so sad that we're that surprised when somebody wants to interact with us face to face. So, yeah, we gotta keep up the fight, because I think to take it to the next level, if you can do the simple stuff just by, like, reaching out or saying hi to somebody you see in public, then you start to realize, like, okay, this type of interaction feels like something that's, like, kind of wired into my personality. So maybe that's an indication of one of my gifts that I can then develop. So those little interactions can start to be clues for, like, okay, what might this look like in a bigger way that I can develop and actually turn into a daily gift and purpose, and just a way to impact people on an even deeper level. Just start small and then you go big.
Right. And what you're saying is that action is how you kind of discover your purpose. And it brings me to a place that I wanted to go with this interview, which is in your first chapter, which is called "You're Not a Puppet." You frame action as the antidote to distraction, right? And it's interesting because there are so many people that they feel lost and they take no action because they feel lost and they don't know what way to go. Um, and your antidote to this is just go. Just take some action. If you talk to people on the street and you give someone a compliment in a store, maybe that will be the clue to what direction you should go in. But the only way you're going to figure it out is by just going.
Yeah.
Why do you think action feels so threatening, and why is it so important to break through that barrier of it?
Yeah, the science part of it is that our brain always wants to do what's familiar and what's comfortable and what's predictable. And so it's a good thing. It's trying to help us by always doing what's predictable, because our brain's main job is to protect us more than anything else. But if you look at so the average person thinks about 60,000 thoughts or so per day. And 95% of those thoughts, yeah, it's a crazy number, isn't it? Like, just think it's 60,000, but the average person, 60,000 thoughts, and then 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the same thoughts you had the day before. So, if 95% of our thoughts are just accumulating day after day after day, the chances of us actually taking action that's different is probably pretty small, because what happens is you have a thought and then you have an emotion, and then that emotion puts you into motion, which we call action. So if you just chop the E off of emotion, the emotions are meant to make you take action. So if you think the same thing every day, you're going to feel the same thing every day. You're probably going to do the same thing every day. So the change is take those 5% of your thoughts that are kind of easily changeable, and start with those. Like, okay, what's some new thought? What's some reminder I can set on my phone or something I can write on my palm that's at least going to have me thinking a little bit differently that might lead to some sort of different action. So, if you're trying to make some simple change as like, I don't know, make eye contact with somebody with the cashier today. You could even just write eyes on your hand or on your phone or something. Because then you have a fresh thought, and then that one little thought can start to create this domino effect of like, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to do something different with my eyes, then maybe I can say something different to this person that I see every day or this person that maybe I don't treat as well. It just, if you change one little thought, it starts to have a bigger ripple effect out from there.
Yeah, man, I love that. How many of those, like, how long do you think it takes to start to replace some of that 95% of thoughts that we have that I'm guessing really generate our emotions? How long of consciously importing new thoughts and thoughts that will be positive and make positive change? How long does it take for that to make an impression on those 95%?
It can be a lot faster than people think. People make it out to be Mount Everest if they think about changing their thoughts, but it's not that tough. I mean, it's a lot easier than trying to lose 100 pounds of physical body weight or something like that. So the biggest thing I would say is if you're really trying to change your thoughts at a meaningful level, it can't just stay with you. You got to use friends, you got to use family, because the more you talk it out with people, then your brain starts to realize, oh, this is important. Like, if you only think something, your brain kind of puts it down low on the priority list. But if you say it out loud, it bumps it up. And if you say it out loud and have a discussion back and forth with somebody, then it actually really makes it, okay, we got to make this sink in quick. And if you do it, if whatever you're trying to train your brain to do, if you can do it with movement, then that also helps your brain to soak it up quicker. So to give you a timeline, like, I know for me, I've been able to have some pretty fast thought changes that were lasting within 2 or 3 days because I really hit it hard. But
Hmm.
if I've just kind of gone through the motions and like kind of sort of did it halfway, but only really thought it instead of talking it out with people, then sometimes it's like weeks or months, but it doesn't have to be that long if you really put yourself to it.
Yeah. Um, so this brings me to a interesting point, which is that I think a lot of us aren't aware of what we're thinking in the first place. And I'm curious about how much we have to start being aware of to make change, right? I think a lot of us suppress, especially men. I mean, I don't know how long that's been going on. As long as I can think about, I don't think that's just a 21st century thing, right?
Oh,
Suppression.
no.
Um, if anything, we might be getting better with that, which is awesome. But we suppress our emotions, we suppress our imperfections, we suppress our desires, we suppress a lot of our thoughts. Why is it so important? And is it so important to stop suppressing and become open and aware of the parts of us that we might not be comfortable with, that we might not love right now?
I love that you asked this question. I don't think anybody else has asked me this question, and it gives me the chance to answer something that I've always tried to figure out. How do I get this into an answer that somebody, even though they didn't ask the question, how do I say this? So you're giving me the perfect chance to say it. I love the fact that therapists and other people are trying to get guys, especially, or really anybody, but especially guys, to like stop suppressing their emotions and actually feel them. That's great.
Hmm.
However, that's only part of the story because the end goal isn't just to feel your emotions. The end goal is to actually step into the life you were designed for. And if your emotions are clogged up, then you're not going to step into that life. So you also said that, and this was the perfect question because you also used the word desires. And we suppress our desire a lot for multiple reasons, but ultimately we need to not be afraid of our desires because, and this is where I believe all of your core desires are actually good, even the desires that can come out in a negative way with in terms of a harmful action to yourself or to somebody else. But I still believe the ultimate desire that caused it was good. So in an effort to like become more disciplined or to stop bad habits, a lot of times we make the mistake of just trying to shut down our desires. And that just kills us from the inside out, especially of men, because men are meant to be passionate and we're meant to desire something to really achieve and to go protect and to go do something that saves the day for somebody else. It's the reason that little boys want to be Batman or Superman. They want to come through and
Yeah.
defeat the bad guy. Like that's a true desire. And if we just buy the lie of like, oh, you got to shut down your desire and become stoic all the time, Yeah, you can do that, and you probably won't have as many bad habits, but you're gonna be empty, and then you're gonna be looking for something to fill that emptiness, and you'll develop another bad habit. So we gotta lean into our desires and then figure out, even if the desire ended up leading to a bad action, what was the good desire first, and how do we keep that good and pure as it works its way out into actions?
So let's say there's someone listening to this, right? Like a young man, and they don't have to be a young man, who doesn't know what they want, doesn't know what they desire. How do you recommend, like, obviously I think going and asking someone for help with that, like such as yourself, would be a great path. But let's say they want to do it by themselves. How do you recommend they like search inside without getting kind of lost in their like hedonistic desires, right? But how do you recommend they find their real desire and find their calling?
Yeah, man, that's such a good question, and actually, I just ran into a guy less than a week ago, and I've known him for a long time, and he for years, he's just kinda been in, like, stuck mode, self-sabotage mode where he'll take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, and just kinda known as, like, the screw up, and even his friends are starting to get fed up with it, and I ran into him in a context where I couldn't have a really deep conversation with him because I love having deep conversations, but we just weren't in the kind of situation where that was possible, and so I knew better than to, like, start lecturing him about his bad habits because he's got some bad habits, and I knew better than to, like, tell him what to do in any sort of circumstance. So what I knew is that he, like so many guys who really don't have a sense of what they really want, what they also don't have is they don't have a dream. And so I just straight up asked him, I said, "Hey, bro, what's your dream?" This was like at the end of kind of a 30-minute kind of lighthearted conversation with a few deep parts of it mixed in. But I said, "What's your dream?" And he kind of looked up in the air and it's like, I don't know, just living, breathing. And I wanted to like throw my hands on my forehead. I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is why. This is why you're living the way you're living is because you don't have a dream." And so to anybody, I would say, "What is your dream?" And excuse me, if you don't know the answer to that, then you can start doing things like give your brain some silence because the whole the whole idea of distraction is not only are our thoughts the same from the day before, but our thoughts are so distracted by whether it's social media or music or just our brains are constantly inputting or dealing with inputs of information. And if we could give our brains just a little bit of silence a day, even start with like 30 seconds if it's uncomfortable, because it probably will be uncomfortable at first, but if you just give your brain some silence and let yourself dream and let some of the you're gonna have some crazy thoughts and dreams, let them run for a minute. You can sort them out later, but just give yourself the permission. Give your brain the permission to start dreaming again because it's been lying dormant for a while and it just needs to have that permission and the space to say like, oh, it's okay for us to dream again. Like, okay. Because I guarantee if you go back to yourself in second grade, you would have definitely had an answer for like, what are your dreams? Now, the
Yeah.
dreams may not have been like realistic necessarily, but at least your brain at that point was dreaming. So we can all still do it. And then once we get this, we just, start writing stuff down or typing in your phone as dreams come to your mind and then sort them out. Then decide like, okay, is this a worthwhile dream? Is this even a achievable dream? But at least start the process of it. And then hopefully don't do it by yourself. You can do it by yourself for a week or two, but it's always going to go faster with other people and more effective.
Yeah. Dude, just you saying that, like, I realized when I was in like first grade, I was so clear on what I wanted to be. Although it wasn't like, I mean, probably not possible. I wanted to be a Jedi master. Like, pretty sure those aren't real. But I was so convicted. Like, you can ask my mom; she's downstairs. Like, I thought I had the Force, and uh, as a sixth grader, I wanted to be in the MLB. That's exactly what I wanted to do. I have this chalkboard up here. Still says like I was 17 and got drafted out of high school. Like, that's what I said. That didn't happen, just so you know. But that would be insane if that happened. But that's what I wanted, right? And young kids have such a desire, and all of
Yes.
that was before I was introduced to social media. And now, and here's me speaking for my generation, I think a lot of our dreams, if we have those silence moments, they're going to come from what we see on social media. It's going to be, oh, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 20 and retire my parents. Like, is that actually what your purpose is? Oh, I want to live in Dubai with my Bugatti. Like, really? That that's what you want? And if that is what you want, I don't care. Like, great for you, man. Like, there's no judgment. But challenging, like, I don't think a lot of people are able to differentiate between what we see on social media and what we actually want. And I think that is a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem, and so much of those dreams, it's really more about how they think the Bugatti is gonna make them feel or how
Mm,
retiring their parents is gonna make them feel, and then a question I ask them in those kind of situations is, like, once they tell me that that's their goal or their dream or whatever, like, let's say it's like, "I'm gonna retire by the time I'm 25 and get a Bugatti," and I'm like, "Alright, then what? Because 'Cause you're probably gonna live another 50 years." So and they don't a lot of times, they don't have an answer for that because the ones that if they say something like, "Well, I'm gonna sit on the beach the rest of my life," then if you let them just think about that for a little bit, they start to realize like, "Okay, that'll be fun for about a week and a half, and then I'm gonna be bored out of my mind, and then I'm gonna need a new purpose, a new mountain to climb." And eventually, if they keep running through those self-focused scenarios, they realize, "Okay, my purpose is actually meant to give my life away, not to take and take."
right. Um, that brings up a really good point that I want to go to. In our last interview, at one point, you said that men feel the most fulfilled when they are sacrificing their lives for a higher purpose. And I really agree with that. And there's also a point in there that I want to dig into a little deeper and just disagree on the wording where I think sacrifice has been taken and abused. And when we think about sacrifice, on one end of the spectrum, we have the men that are doing nothing, and we have the people that are doing nothing. On one end of the spectrum, we have the people that are m- sacrificing too much, right? They're giving so much away, they're putting so much energy away, they don't allow themselves to receive anything. They don't
Yes.
allow themselves to take time and prioritize their needs because really you have to be good yourself in order to give away. You have to you have to feel good right here in order to give that feeling to others, right? And eventually if you're giving so much, you're unable to receive the gifts that are there for you. Because when you do give out, there are things that will come back to you, but you have to be open for that. Um, that was just something that I did want to bring up and get your opinion on, in that word sacrifice, if we're in agreement on that.
100% agreement on that. I'm glad you brought it up because, yeah, in anything, there is an overcorrection. So while most people are probably living more on the selfish side of the scale, then somebody might say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna go totally selfless." And that's not healthy either, because like you said, you can't give what you don't have. And, if I only have a certain amount of oxygen in my lungs, and if I give my air out to somebody else, then I gotta receive some air again to be able to give out again, right? So, like, we're not self-sustaining creatures, we have to receive, and it's just like if you fly on an airplane, they go through all the safety procedures and they say, "Okay, in the event of an emergency, the air mask is gonna drop down. If you have a kid with you, put the air mask on yourself first, and then
Hmm.
put the air mask on the kid. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to the kid or, in the metaphor, whoever it is you're trying to help out." So, yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
be healthy and as filled up as possible. And throughout therapy grad school, they taught us the same thing. It's like, we're a bunch of helpers in one place and we're hungry to help. And a lot of times it can be this pathological need to help because the more people I help, the more I feel good about myself. And that's not healthy
Mhm.
either. So, like, yeah, you gotta really watch out, like, what's the real motive of my giving and my sacrifice? Because if it's really ultimately to just get more of my needs met in almost like a people-pleasing kinda mode, then it's ultimately you kinda flipped back to being selfish, which kinda gets all kinda crazy wonky and go a little deep psychological. But to your ultimate point, yes, we can't overcorrect. We gotta receive because you can't give what you don't have, and when you give too often and too much without receiving again, then you run out of gas.
This also brings up the concept of nice guy, right? And I see there's so many people that they're the nice guy, right? And they struggle to find a balance. And there are also so many people that are they're mean, they're mean guys out there. I'm curious from a perspective of not how other people look at you, not getting anything, not necessarily with women, but like just for you and an individual's personal mental health and fulfillment. What's the best combination between assertiveness and kindness, niceness, all of that that feels the best for a person?
Hmm. Man, that's a I don't know that I've ever even thought about what is the perfect mix or balance point of that. And so one story comes to mind because I think in stories more than data, but there was a young woman who, and I'm trying to change some of the details because it's a true story, but I don't want to necessarily reveal her. But she was in a situation where she was about to be robbed, and these two men were aggressively coming at her with bad intentions between body language and words they were saying. This was about to get bad. And there was another man who came up from a different direction and reached back in his back hip to pull out the gun that he was carrying in his hip. And the two guys who were going to do harm to her saw this guy coming and reach for his gun. He didn't even have to pull out the gun, but they immediately turned around and ran the other way. And so I don't know if there's a perfect blend of aggressiveness and kindness, but I think if you can be connected to both parts of yourself, because I think we're made up of parts. There's research that shows this. It's called IFS, internal family systems, but there's a kind part of you and there's an aggressive part of you that wants to do damage, hopefully in a good way. And so if you're able to connect and access both of those when they're needed, then to me that's the perfect blend. A lot of people, they're only accessing their kind part, and so it's always going to be lovey-dovey, and let's not ever have any conflict, and we don't want to offend anybody, and like that's not how we're wired. Men are definitely not wired that way, and neither are women. But then there's also some people that almost always are accessing their aggressive part, and they just come out and they're just blunt to everybody and don't care how they come across, and it's just all about how they can get stuff done with their words or their actions, and that's obviously unhealthy as well. So I think it's a matter of knowing which parts are in there, how to connect them, and then how do they work together? Because you're really in
Hmm.
charge of those parts. But when one of them wants to like take over and grab the steering wheel, kind of like the movie Inside Out, that's actually how our
Yeah.
nervous system works. Like those parts, they really want to take over because they think they're being helpful. And they think their solution is the thing that's going to really bring about the change that's needed. But you're the one in charge of these parts. You just got to get the practice of saying like, all right, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but like let's deal with you later. Let's use you in a different scenario, and instead we're going to use you over here. That's that's at
So
least
a lot of
yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people, especially young men, when you hear about like the nice guy or the bad boy, whatever, right? Those are just people that they haven't quite discovered or embraced and worked with their other parts, right?
Yeah, on a simplistic level, yes. And then I would say, especially somebody like that, who's the bad boy or the kind of the bully, then that tells me immediately that they're carrying around a ton of pain. Because like
Hmm.
whatever's in you, when you get shaken, that is going to come out. Like if you have a glass of water and somebody shakes that glass, water's coming out. And if I've got a bunch of pain in me and somebody shakes me and makes me mad, pain's coming out onto them. So there's a whole phrase in a book called hurt people hurt people. Like if I'm carrying around pain and hurt, then that's pretty much all that's going to come out of me when I get shaken up.
Love that analogy. Yeah. Biggest hindrance toward me making progress to my goals is my inability to monotask. When I'm doing something and I'm not making progress on it, I'll instantly switch to another thing. And then I don't make progress on that and I switch to another, perpetuating this cycle. But in the past week, this has all changed because this amazing company, Magic Mind, sent me 15 of these mental performance shots they have. And they've made such a big difference. I've had one each of the past 7 days. And it's really made me be able to finish tasks before I move on to the next. I have concentration that lasts longer because of the caffeine that doesn't just hit you all at once, but it actually hits you continuously over a 4 hour time period. It's made such a difference in my productivity. And I'd love for you guys to get to try it out. So if you use Wagoner20, the code Wagoner20 at checkout, it'll be in the description as well. You can get 20% off these shots and 48% off a bundle of 30 of them. So I'm curious for you. We've talked a lot about what I see as the masculinity crisis and my views as someone a part of Gen Z. I'm curious for you, what compelled you to write Tough Enough and why you feel like it's so important right now?
Yeah, mainly because nobody's ever written a book for guys in their 20s before. There's plenty of men's books, but they're pretty broad and, like, anybody can read them. But nobody, at least that I know of and that the publisher that I've worked with knows, I don't think we've found a book that's actually been directly and explicitly aimed at guys in their 20s. And that decade is the defining decade for a guy. I mean, really for anybody, but especially a guy. And specifically for me, if I had to pinpoint an age, it's 23. Because a lot of times if a guy went to college, he has now graduated. He's probably in a new city with new friends and a new job, and everything's new that he's having to adjust to over here. But he's also had to leave behind a whole lot of stuff: the friends, the college life, just the identity of being a college student. So have left behind all that stuff, and so massive changes happen in those early 20s, and then nobody really tells you that it's coming in the first place, and definitely nobody tells you really how to handle it. And then the list kept adding to that. I'm like, okay, well, they're not prepared for this thing. They're not prepared for that thing. And then I also, when I'm working with a guy in his 20s, whether in a counseling role or just a mentoring role, I always had probably 8 or 10 books that I wish I could have just like given them in a stack and like asked them to read. But like so few people read anymore. By the way, that's one way to get ahead in life really easily is just read more, just because since
Mhm.
almost nobody's reading. If you read, then you're going to be head and shoulders above. You're going to stand out. And I know you read, so I'm preaching to the choir here, but there were so many books that I wanted to ask them to read, and I knew that wasn't feasible. So I just thought, okay, well, why don't I write the thing that doesn't exist? Because at least then it would be available to give these guys these 14 or 15. They're all pretty short chapters, and they're all connected, but you don't have to read every single chapter. But I wanted to have a toolkit of all the different topics that nobody's really helping the guys in their 20s figure out. I want to have it all in one place in a readable format. So short version of why I wrote it.
Dude, I love that. And it is so, so important. Like the fact that no one's done that is one, just like a missed business opportunity by so many people. And two, like we need it. It feels so straightforward that especially like young men need guidance. I love the name of the chapter. Your father was not perfect, you know, and it's like, yeah, you have so much baggage. We have so much baggage we're carrying around, and don't have any clear how or why or any of that. Like we're going to be, unless we learn stuff, unless we have someone showing us the way, we're going to be so lost for so long. And life is really short, you know? Like I think that everyone in my generation should like on average with technology be able to live to like 100. That seems that would be awesome, right? But even that, like by the time you're 23, you're almost a quarter through that. You're almost a quarter through that time. So like fast track your way of like living your best life. It feels so obvious, and I really appreciate that you felt called to do this.
Yeah, it's fun for me. I love working with guys in this age group one on one, and so it's fun to write the book that hopefully helps the people that I might never meet in the first place. But it's like you said, you can fast track this because you don't have to sit around and wait till you're ready. You don't have to sit around and be patient. Like what? Yes, patience is needed sometimes, but I think there's so much passivity and inaction that right now that I think we need to put patience on the shelf for a minute and just go after something. Start growing, start making progress in some area. Even if you don't know that this is like what you want to keep doing forever, at least start taking some steps and grow something internal or create something externally that's going to help somebody. Because then you start learning stuff about yourself, you learn stuff about the world, you build confidence. And so yeah, we got a big opportunity here because honestly, the culture has left young men behind, and I think they're starting to realize that men are needed again in general, but I don't think anybody's really addressed young men yet. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of the young guys are starting to come back to church in big numbers, both in the US and in
Mhm.
England, is that honestly, like because churches, they're asking young men to step up and showing them that they're needed and that there is a purpose bigger than themselves that they have to step into. Excuse me, that that only they can step into, that if you don't step into this as a young man, then it's just not going to get done. And so that speaks to us as men. Is like, if you tell us we're needed and that nobody else can do this but us, that's like, yeah, I'm in. What war do I need to fight?
I don't know if we've talked about faith before in like my sense of faith, but I I'm not I don't go to church. I'm not like obliged to a certain religion, but I've definitely over the past few years developed a much stronger sense of faith in whatever it is, like because I know that there's something, whether you want to call it God, the universe, energy, whatever, right? And um it just feels like it is the direction so many people are going. And even the way I've thought about it, because I'm very cerebral. I have a very scientific mind. Even if it's not real, like it just gives you so much more uh, purpose, and it makes things feel so much better. Um, I don't think I'm quite explaining it in my best way because I come from a very atheist family, so I've definitely had to uh, defend my belief a few times in conversation. It was a little more articulate than this, but uh, yeah, I see why so many people are coming back, especially young men, and I think it's good for the most part.
Yeah, anything can get hijacked and taken the wrong direction for sure. It's just like we were talking about earlier with desires. So I just love the fact that you're actually wrestling through something like this, because it would be easy just to stay distracted and keep on doing the same old stuff and stay on the surface. But I know you well enough now to know that you're not satisfied with just doing the same old, same old. You're gonna dig into something and really figure it out for yourself. So I freaking love it. Keep it up, man. Just the fact that you are starting to realize that we are holistic people, that we're
Hmm.
not just a brain, we're not just a body, like we're lots of different parts. And so your hunger for more knowledge is leading you into a cool, curious phase. So keep it up.
Yeah, I've read a lot of literature from different religions and philosophies, and my favorite thing to do is pick together all the different similarities between them, right? Even the similarities between science. And the one really big similarity that I focus on between everything is oneness, right? In Buddhism, everything is one, right? And in Christianity, we all have God within us. In Hinduism, there's many gods that make up one God. And in science, all matter comes from the same point. And so no matter where we're looking for our information or beliefs, like we are all connected. And that belief, the belief that we're all connected, uh, I think is so important to hold because it encourages the behavior that you talked about earlier, where we don't just grow for ourselves, we grow for all of us, and we help other people.
Yeah, yeah, that's well said, brother. I can't even add anything to that. That was flawless.
Well, Trey, I would like you to leave us with um what like we've talked a lot today, and there's an abundance of information. If anything, all the information that's online right now can be paralyzing for young men, especially. Like I talk to people and they're listening to podcasts, they're scrolling on, not they're not scrolling on like brain rot videos, they're scrolling on like good creators like yourself, right? And they're getting good information all the time, but they don't know what's right, they don't know what to believe, they don't know what to take action on. So I want you to leave us with something that the people that are listening can do that can help change their life in a positive direction. Something simple, something that's easy to implement, but that is going to create change.
Yeah, man. Okay. So I'm on a big kick right now, and I have been for probably 6 months. I'm on a kick to bring mentors back and making
Nice.
mentoring more normal again. Because if you study history, mentors have been a massive factor of whether it be businesses or families or faith-based things. I mean, you name it, mentors are an essential part. And mentoring, I think, has largely moved to, like you say, a bunch of influencers, but that just gives you information. But if you apply information to your specific situation in the correct way, then that's wisdom. But if all you know of people, if the only wise people that you know, quote unquote, are just on a screen, then you're not going to be able to really apply that information to your life in a wise way. So the missing link is a mentor that can help you take all this information that's out there, help you. All right, how do I figure out like which of these pieces of information do I take, and then what do I do about it specific to my story and my giftings and my personality traits and my whole situation? So making mentors, the action point would be to just find a mentor. And this doesn't have to be some dramatic conversation where you're like, will you be my mentor? Just find somebody that you respect, that's hopefully a little bit older than you, that has generally the type of life that you want to be living. And this, it doesn't have to be some rich guy and is, driving a Bentley. Just find a guy who's, I don't know, 5 years older than you are. Or if you ultimately find a guy who's retired, find a dude that's like 78 years old and he's got more time on his hands and he's just dying to mentor somebody. Just ask that dude, hey, can we go get breakfast one morning? And just ask him to tell you his story. Because if he just starts telling you stories, you're going to pick up all kinds of gems and then you'll have questions to ask. So yeah, it doesn't have to look one way or another, but there's just there's a high benefit in just practically asking somebody, hey, can we hang out like once every couple of weeks and I just pick your brain about life?
Dude, I love that so much. And I can truly attest to that because throughout this podcast, I've met so many people. And though I haven't had many formal mentorships, it feels like every week I talk to someone, I get a hour of mentorship, and like everyone I talk to has done at least something that I'd like to emulate. I respect, and I want to be like, I'd love to be like you, Trey. You know what I mean? And I think that finding something where you are around people that you want to be like and that you want to grow toward is just the best thing you can do for your life.
That's it. And
Yeah.
the more you hang around, the
Well,
more you're going to become like them without even trying.
exactly. Well, Trey, I want everyone that's listening and that got something out of this to get tough enough. Comes out February 24th, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
February 24th.
So the week that this is coming out, we're recording this a bit early, but this will be out that week. So everybody go grab the book. I just pre-ordered it right now. I'm so excited to get it. Dude, you're the best. And this is going to help so many people. I'm so excited for it to just freaking launch off. Like, you're like NASA, man. It's going to go crazy.
I appreciate that. I told you this the last time we talked, and I'll tell you again, you are my favorite person to have one of these podcast conversations with because I don't know what it is. There's something about you have this Jedi superpower to go back to your childhood dream. Like I think you became an interview Jedi, and I'm serious about that. I think you can look back. Everybody can look back at their childhood dreams and realize they probably have made that happen in some form or fashion. Like you took something fictional like a Jedi force and you've actually become a Jedi interviewer because nobody else that I've interviewed with, and I've probably done 75 or 100 of these, but nobody else has been able to get the type of responses out of me and the type of energy that you get out of me. So I hope whatever you do, you keep doing this, at least in a part-time capacity.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it brings me so much joy. I love asking questions. Curiosity is at the base of everything I do. I mean, I talk to my parents and they're like, yeah, you were always that why kid. You'd always just say why. But they never suppressed it. And here I am. All I want to do is ask why.
Yes, sir. Keep it up, brother. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Trey. And I so enjoyed today's conversation. Everybody can find you at Rugged Counseling on all social media. Yeah, this was the Grateful Podcast. Thank you.